Hello, and welcome to Foundations for Algebra, Unit 2A, Lesson 1. You should be completing your guided notes as you watch this. So our objective today is scholars will solve one-step equations using addition and subtraction. So the first thing we need to think about is, what do I mean solve? Solving a one-variable equation means finding the value of the variable that makes the equation true. Find the value of the variable that makes the equation true. So we're going to use this equation as our example. X plus 5 equals 10. What value of x makes it true? In order to solve this, I could just say, I could look at it and say, well, I know that if x equals 5, it's true. 5 plus 5 equals 10. If x is 10, it's not true. So we are looking for the value that makes it true. So how do I solve an equation? So the first thing you have to do is determine what is happening in the equation. So let's look at this equation for example. I have y plus 3.7 equals 9.3. What is happening in this equation? Well, in this equation, I'm adding, now I'm looking at what's happening to my variable. I'm adding 3.7 to my variable. The next thing I need to do is determine what the inverse or opposite of what is happening is. So we said what is happening is I'm adding 3.7. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So the opposite here would be to subtract 3.7. If you do that to this equation, if I do y plus 3.7 minus 3.7, hold on just a moment. Let me move this subtract thing real quick. Because we know that we're subtracting 3.7, let's move that over. So, equals 9.3 minus 3.7. So here, these will cancel. And I get y equals, and I have 9.3 minus 3.7. Remember that when we are subtracting decimals, we simply line them up. So I get 5.4. That's the value that makes my equation true. So we use the inverse operation to solve the equation. We simply, like I said, we use the opposite. We subtract our 3.7 for both sides. So we get y, because remember, this is a zero pair. Positive 3.7 minus 3.7, it just goes away. Over here, we add these. We can do our little scratch work on the side. Get 6, 5. So I get 5.6. Nice and easy. So the next thing you need to think about is, am I allowed to just do that? There's two properties that we need to keep in mind. The addition property of equality, which we are going to abbreviate APE, states if I add the same thing to both sides of my equation, the equation remains true. Then we also have the subtraction property of equality, which we'll abbreviate SPE, subtraction property of equality. It states if I subtract the same thing from both sides, the equation remains true. So those properties tell us that we're allowed to do this. So let's try a couple of problems together. First problem, x minus 3.9 equals 15.3. So what is happening here? What's happening to my x? Well, I am subtracting. And remember, you should put these in here. I'm subtracting 3.9. What is the inverse? The opposite of subtracting 3.9 is just going to be adding 3.9. So that's what I'm going to do. I would use my addition property of equality, and I'm going to add 3.9 to both sides. So I have x minus 3.9 plus 3.9 equals 15.3 plus 3.9. Like we said before, minus 3.9 plus 3.9 is going to cancel. That leaves me with x over here. On the other side, I have 15.3 plus 3.9. Now I just need to combine my like terms, CLT. If I add these up, I have 15.3 plus 3.9. Carry my 1. I get 19.1, so x equals 19.1. I can check this on my calculator by simply putting in 19.1 for x and subtracting 30.9 to make sure it is true. Let's try another one. So in this case, what is happening to my variable? Notice my variable's on the other side. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to do the same thing. So what's happening to my variable? I am adding 18.7. What is the opposite, the inverse of adding 18.7? It's just subtracting 18.7. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my subtraction property of equality to subtract 18.7. So I have 10 minus 18.7 equals m plus 18.7 minus 18.7. Just like before, these are going to cancel. Plus 18.7 minus 18.7 goes away. So I'm left with 10 minus 18.7 equals m. Now I'm going to combine my like terms. Well, 10 minus 18.7 leaves me with negative 8.7 equals m. Once again, I can check by putting that in for m and checking it on my calculator. One last problem. And actually pause this and see if you can do this by yourself. What is happening in this equation? I'm adding 5/8. The opposite of adding 5/8 is just going to be to subtract 5/8. So I have g plus 5/8 minus 5/8 equals 7 minus 5/8. And this is my subtraction property of equality. And I'm just subtracting 5/8. Remember, here it's going to cancel. I'm left with g equals 7 minus 5/8. I need to combine those like terms. Remember how to work with our fractions. I have g equals 6 and 3/8. Or you could write that as g equals 51/8 if you want to write it as an improper fraction. Okay, I guess I will see you in class. Do your practice.